All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. The 2024 TNKATT season is over, and the 2025 one is about to begin. You can expect to start seeing tournament videos for 2025 season shortly after this video goes live. But before we start releasing those, I just want to do a quick preview of the 2025 season, see what lakes you can expect us to fish, kind of our strategy going into them based on what we learned in the past season, and a couple of our goals for this coming season. So let's just dive right into the schedule and we'll talk about our goals at the end of the video. So as of the recording of this, it's about the middle of December when I'm recording this. There's already been 3 of the tournaments happen, but we haven't uploaded those videos yet. And I'm just going to give a quick view of what happened on those 3. We only got to fish 2, but we're going to start out with October 26th. This was a really interesting tournament. It was a new idea they had for having 2 different lakes that you could fish. So on October 26th, we fished Chilhowie or Parksville Lakes. And we decided to do Parksville because we fished there before and we had no real experience with Chilhowie. And my dad finished in 7th place, and that was a really good day because he caught all those in the last few minutes of the tournament. It was a really good fishing day for him. I didn't do quite as well. I finished in 18th, and that's out of 27 anglers. And we'll do more detail once those videos come out on placement, total length, and everything. But that was a very interesting tournament. Having your choice of 2 different lakes, especially one being a smallmouth lake with Chilhowie and one being a largemouth and spotted bass fishery in Parksville. Now, we don't really like Parksville. It's a hard lake, clear water. We haven't quite figured it out, and we don't know if we ever will. But it was an interesting day, and to say the least, what we had pre-fished didn't quite work out, and we're still working on that lake. We probably should have fished Chilhowie. At least I should have. My dad did pretty good on Parksville. I should have gone to Chilhowie, it looks like. But once that video comes out, you'll see more detail on that. We've already fished the November 16th tournament as well. That's Melton Hill. And this was really fun because we had not fished Melton Hill in late fall before. It was really cool. We did some research and we found that Melton Hill actually has a lot of grass, a lot of shallow grass in the area. And we decided that we were going to try something different. We usually launch back in the creek, usually Hickory Creek, because we've caught good fish back there before. But this time we decided we were going to find some main channel flats and try to fish those for largemouth. And that actually worked out pretty good. I ended up in 9th place with 42 inches, and that was all fishing out on the flats. Now, we didn't catch as many big fish as we did during practice, so that didn't, it was kind of a, yeah, we caught a lot of numbers on tournament day, but we caught bigger fish during practice. My dad finished in 24th with 15 inches, and that's out of 27 anglers. So we kind of flip-flopped there. In Parksville, my dad did really well. I didn't do very good. And then on Melton Hill, I did a lot better, and then my dad didn't finish very well. But we both have 2 top 10s to start the season, and we'll get into why that's important at the end of the video when we're talking about our goals. But Melton Hill's already been fished. It's pretty good fun. We're really looking forward to releasing that video because we had a lot of learning, and it was really fun to get to know this part of the lake. We hadn't done a lot of research on it before, but to figure out there's actually a lot of vegetation in that lake was really cool. But the most recent tournament to happen was December 7th, and that was on Dale Hollow. And unfortunately, we missed this one again. We've missed Dale Hollow because of graduations last year, and we missed Dale Hollow this year because, as you can tell by the bareness of this room, we're in the middle of moving. In fact, we move at the end of this week. This will probably be the last video you see in this room. So that's been a very emotional and stressful time for us because we've been in this process since probably late July, early September-ish. So it's been really chaotic, and I'm not going to go into that, but we missed Dale Hollow, unfortunately. So we're hoping next season to get there, and maybe this year, if we find some time, we'll go up there for a trip just for fun because we love fishing for smallmouth, and Dale Hollow is about the best smallmouth lake in the state. Now, let's get into the tournaments that are coming up. Winter fishing, as you can tell from last season, is not our forte, but we've done a lot of research, and I think we learned a lot going into it from last season, our experiences, and what we can expect. And we'll have a little bit more of an advantage. We've learned how to use our electronics a little bit more. We don't really rely on them much. I use mine primarily just to find the depth and for water temperatures, and then my maps. I really love having Navionics maps on my thing because I love being able to follow channels and stuff like that on the maps. But we're hoping having a little bit more experience with the electronics and just with winter fishing in general will get us some higher placements in these winter tournaments. The first of which is going to be January 18th. That's going to be on Lake Norris. We have fished Norris a lot more than we thought we would. This will be our third tournament there in the span of about 12 months or so. But January 18th, we're expecting it to be pretty cold. There's some projections that we'll have a mild winter, but we don't know what to expect from that. Today is the 11th, and it was pouring snow outside today. And yesterday, it was 70 degrees out. Welcome to East Tennessee. There's no real way to predict the weather here. And honestly, we have some plans based on what the weather's going to do for that tournament. The first of which is going to be fishing on the main channel towards the Loyston Sea and targeting smallmouth. We did really well on the Classic in September, and we know it's going to be different fishing, but we also know that we need to look for different structure because that's where the fish are going to move to. We're going to be fishing bluffs. We're going to be fishing rock points, anywhere where we can find that vertical structure that they're going to be hanging on. And we're hoping to be able to find some deeper bait fish and try to exploit that a little bit. But if we have a mild winter, we'll be hopefully fishing it on the Loyston Sea, probably on the south end, because we caught some really good smallmouth there during the Classic, and the smallmouth are not likely to move very far. We're not expecting them to be 6, 7, 8, 9 miles away from where they were. They're going to find that vertical structure, and we know that at Blue Mud, where we launched for the Classic, as you get out to the main channel from the creek, there's a lot of vertical bluffs, and you have 20 to 25 feet of water, even with the water going down for winter pool. So we're hoping that that will give us a bit of an edge. We'll know we'll have to slow our presentations down more than likely. If we have an unseasonably warm day, which would be fantastic, they might be out on the shallow points, and we'll take advantage of that as well. But we have plans for different types of weather. If it's cold and dreary, we're going to be slowing down, finesse presentations on bluff walls and deeper structure. But if it's a unseasonably warm day, if it's sunny out, a little bit of wind, we're going to try to fish those shallow points on the main channel and those islands, and then work our way deeper from there and see what we can get going with that. February 8th is going to be kind of the same strategy on Watts Bar, and maybe fishing for muskie. We'll see. Last year, we got into muskie on Watts Bar fishing the Emory River. And we're definitely going to try fishing in that same area because my dad did catch a 19-inch largemouth in the flats in less than 5 feet of water on a crankbait. So that kind of changed our perspective a little bit. There's no exact science to the fishing because we caught them deep, and then during practice on Watts Bar, I caught them in less than 2 feet of water on a spinnerbait. Now that was an unseasonably warm week. The water temps were a little above 50. It was sunny, and it was out on a mud flat. I caught one on the spinnerbait. And then my dad caught one. The water temps were still in that 50-ish degree weather, but the weather had gone in cooler, and it was kind of rainy and kind of cloudy. But we shouldn't be afraid to fish shallow for that tournament, especially since Watts Bar overall is a much shallower lake. We're looking forward to that. We'll probably spend extra time on Watts Bar because I still need to get a trophy muskie for my Tennessee Angler Recognition Program stuff. I'm really wanting to catch one. I caught a 36-inch one last year, and then my dad caught two that were 40 inches and over. And we're hoping to get into that too, just for some fun fishing, but we're also hoping to find some big bass. Watts Bar has big fish. More than one 10-pound bass has come out of there, and we know we can catch them. We just have to find the locations. We're going to do some more exploring. We've been kind of limited on where we've fished on Watts Bar, but we're going to go and find some other areas. Something that we did during the week of Thanksgiving was go and check out the Kingston Steam Plant, which has a warm water discharge very similar to the one at Bull's Run that used to run over on Melton Hill. That warm water discharge could attract some big largemouth in that area. So we're going to try both. We're going to go fish the Emory River. We're going to fish around the Kingston steam plant and see which one of those areas is going to do better for that winter fishing. And it's going to be based specifically on size of fish. We don't want to target numbers. Our strategy last year was primarily catch a limit, no matter if it's 12-inch fish or 20-inch fish. It's just catch 3 fish quickly and then try to catch bigger fish. We're going to try, especially in winter, to target the big fish from the beginning, which, looking at it now, makes a whole lot of sense. It's probably what we should have done to begin with, but we were learning. And we're hoping that by changing this up a little bit, we can catch those bigger fish early on and place better. Because winter, we did not place very well in most of these tournaments. But Watts Bar is going to be some fun experimenting, and maybe we'll go after muskie during the rest of the time after the tournament. We'll see. Because our next tournament isn't until March 1st, and that's on Lake Chickamauga. If I had my way, Chickamauga would be later in the year. It'd be somewhere in the summer or early fall into maybe middle to late November. That's always been my favorite time of year to fish Chickamauga. But a lot of people catch a lot of really good fish on Chickamauga during the winter. Now, this is roughly the same time of year that it was for last season. In fact, these first few tournaments outside of Melton Hill have been roughly the same. Outside of Melton Hill and Dale Hollow, these have been roughly the same. Norris was in December. Watts Bar was in February last year, and Chickamauga was early March last year as well. But we're hoping that we can take our experience from last year and do completely the opposite. We launched back in the creek, hoping to get into some fish back there. We knew that Sells Creek had some steep bluffs back into the creek, but that did not work out well for us. It was just nasty weather, and we didn't do well at all back in the creek. We've talked to a lot of people, done a lot of research. For Chickamauga, we're going to launch out on the main channel. That's the trend for our winter videos and for our winter tournament this coming year. It's fish the main channels, slow it down, finesse presentations, and focus on getting those 3 bites, those 3 big fish bites. So we're going to fish the main channel, and we've got several spots to choose from because we've done very well, especially on one spot. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a big flat right off the main channel. And then we've got a couple of spots that some friends of ours suggested that do really well in that time of year. But with it being March, that's when we start to see the beginning of the spring. We start to see that water temperature and the air temperature start to go up. We don't quite know what to expect. We're not going to try to predict the weather, but we're going to do our best to have plans for different things. March 1st, we could be looking at 20-degree weather. We could be looking at 75-degree weather. It's hard to tell, especially that time of year. It's very unpredictable. But we have several things in mind, particularly being on the main channel. Even if it's warmer, we're going to be on the main channel, but it's going to be focused on an area where there's a lot of flats and creek channels. If it's going to be colder, we're going to be out on some steeper bluff areas, trying to find those vertical structure that the fish will hang around and that rock structure that they like to hang around because it kind of holds that warmth. But we're getting to a time of year where we really can't project much. We can just start putting a bunch of contingencies in place. But Chickamauga, looking forward to it. There's a lot of big fish in Chickamauga. And hopefully with it being early in the year, the fishing pressure won't be as high, and there definitely won't be as much boat traffic. The last time we were on Chickamauga, it was in the middle of the summer, and there was jet skis, wake boats, pontoon boats everywhere, people having parties out on the water, and that doesn't really help it's not very conducive for fishing. But I would consider March 1st Chickamauga to be about as close to sure as we can be for the end of winter fishing, because our next tournament isn't until April 12th, which is on Cherokee. I assume this will be the Clash on Cherokee like it has been for the past few years. So there's going to be a lot of people here, and it's going to be all these different tournament trails: Netka, Setka, TNKATT, any of these other ones. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but all of them are going to try to have their top. I believe it's the top 5 anglers. Whoever has the highest placing top 5 anglers, that trail wins. And I can't remember who won last year. I should have looked that up beforehand, but I don't have time to right now. But Cherokee, they do it the same as last year. It's going to be a 5 fish limit as opposed to 3 fish. TNKATT tournaments are 3 fish limits, but Cherokee is always 5. So that's going to be a bit of an adjustment because there's been several tournaments where we caught a limit, but we didn't catch anything else outside of those 3 fish. But we got to make sure we can catch 5 12-inch or longer fish. April 12th, it's going to be spring. We've not fished Cherokee during the spring. So it's going to be an interesting learning curve. We got to figure out what we want to target because we know there's a pretty distinct divide on the lake. If you go north on the upper end, that's where you're going to catch your largemouth. Down further south is going to be your smallmouth. If we're looking at a mild spring where the temperatures aren't hitting the 80s yet, we're probably going to target smallmouth out on the channel because we did very well in practice last year around the end of March. But if it's really warm, we probably are going to push further into the creeks up north looking for those largemouth bites. We don't know yet. We've got several spots to try. German Creek is one, and we've got a launch on the main channel that we want to try again. It's where we fished last year, and we've got other options as well that we're looking at. But spring fishing, we also have a lot of techniques that we really learned last year. It's going to be your swim jigs, the wacky rig. We're going to try to look for that shad spawn type of deal. There's a lot of stuff that we're trying to learn when it comes to pre-spawn fishing, and we're hoping that by the latest April 12th for Cherokee that we're looking at the fish truly being in pre-spawn, because that's when they're going to be very aggressive. They're going to be big after having fed so much. The females are going to be full of eggs, and we're hoping that Cherokee Lake we could really start placing very well, because that's going to be more of our forte. It's going to be shallow fishing, closer to power fishing like we usually do in the summer, and that's something that we have more experience with. But April 12th, Cherokee. The next one is May 10th, and this one is really, really exciting for us because it's the rivers. It's going to be the French Broad and the Holston like last year, unless they change it up. But if they do it like last year, it'll be the French Broad River and the Holston rivers only. Normally, this tournament takes place in August, and the last 2 times we fished it, we haven't been able to fish on the Holston because the Cherokee Dam was cranking. They had water just pouring out of it, and the French Broad was really, 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 really shallow. And honestly, the French Broad in August is just a terrible fishery, particularly for size. You can catch numbers in August. We caught a lot of numbers, fish between 8 and 12 inches, most of them being about 10 inches. It's not hard to catch a lot of smallmouth, 50, 60 in a day in August, but that size is just not there. May, on the other hand, is a fantastic time of year on the rivers. Last year, we were fishing a month-long tournament. It was a team tournament, and one of our best fishing days of the year took place early in May on the Holston River, and we're hoping that trend continues into this tournament. This could be one of all 12 of these tournaments. This is the one that I believe we have the best chance of placing in the top 3, possibly even winning, because those rivers are what we know best. We fish them all the time. We have several spots that we know of that are really good on the French Broad and the Holston. There's a lot of guys that know these lakes a lot better than we do, but I'd say that we are one of the top. My dad and I are probably 2 of the top anglers in the area for the French Broad and the Holston when it comes to kayak fishing for smallmouth. But we're really looking forward to possibly fishing on the Holston for this tournament. It'd probably be Indian Cave to Nance's Ferry is one of our favorite, and then we've got our traditional French Broad float that does very well. And we've got several spots on the French Broad and the Holston that have produced big fish in May. We just got to decide which one we want to do. it's May 10th is basically guaranteed to be close to summer fishing. I mean, the temperatures early in the day before sunup could still be in the 50s, maybe the upper 40s, but most of the time you're looking at the water temps being up into the 50s, especially on the Holston, because these rivers run colder than the lakes. And there's a really good possibility that we'll do very well on those because that's when the smallmouth are most aggressive. May, they're still pre-spawn and they're big, they're aggressive, they're hitting top water, which I love absolutely so much. And hopefully that River War tournament could be our best placement of the year. We'll see. Moving on to June 7th, that's Douglas Lake. We fished Douglas in the summer before, but we have some new places to try. We've launched the same place for the last 2 Douglas tournaments, but we want to try a couple of new spots. There's one place that we love. It's over in the Sevierville area, and we don't get to fish it very often because a lot of the time, if the lake isn't at summer pool, the launch is completely exposed. You cannot get to the water from it without dragging your kayaks or wheeling your kayaks to the water. But we have caught a lot of really nice fish out of there. And we have a buddy of ours that's fished Douglas all of his life. That's his home lake. And he's shown us some really good stuff to do in the summer on Douglas. There's a lot of bluffs. There's a lot of points in this area that we're really looking forward to. Last year, the year before, actually, rather, the last 2 times have been very odd because we've been told that by June, the fish are usually deeper on Douglas. But the last 2 times, they've been very shallow. They've still kind of been pre-spawny. They've been in that spring pattern. They hadn't quite hit summer pattern. But that could be different this time of year. With it being June, they could be in that summer pattern. But Douglas is one we fished before, but we haven't quite figured it out yet. We've caught big fish out of there, 18 to 20 inch fish. We've both caught fish that size out of Douglas, but we haven't found it consistently. Hopefully, since we'll be at full pool, we're going to have a lot more launches available to us. We're going to try to explore some of the river launches up on the upper end of the lake. And we've got one of our favorite launches that's in the Sevierville area is down near the lower end of the lake. We're going to try both of these spots and just figure out what's working. Douglas is a big fish lake. Before Chickamauga was the big one for East Tennessee, it was Douglas. There's a lot of big fish in there. Even though it gets a ton of pressure, there's still the likelihood of catching your big 5 to 8 pound bass in there. And if we can get into stuff like that, we definitely have a chance to win that tournament and to place well. Now, July 12th, probably the tournament we're looking forward to the most. It's Guntersville again. It's earlier in July than this past season, but from what we've researched, most of July, the fishing is going to be about the same. The good news is, since we're not going in blind this year, we have the ability to go out and do a lot more practice. We only tried 2 spots last year where we fished for the tournament on the upper end of the lake, and then we launched on Saudi Creek. It's the only 2 places we tried. This time around, because we're going to take time off from work again, we're going to have several days down there. We have a lot of places we want to try. We want to try Mud Creek on the upper end. There's another launch near Saudi Creek and a couple more down near the dam that have the potential to catch some big, big fish. And Guntersville last year was our best week of fishing ever. It was just big largemouth. They were aggressive. They were healthy fish. And we're really hoping that is going to be the case next season as well. But we're really looking forward to not going in there blind. We have some patterns that have worked, and they're patterns that we learned from doing a lot of research. So we know that they hold up more than just one time. That chatterbait's going to be good. The wacky rig is going to be good. And you're going to catch them on frog and topwater almost every year in July, if not every year. I mean, it just makes sense. But we're really looking forward to having time to explore and try new areas on Guntersville. We're getting towards the end of the year. One more regular season tournament on September 6th is going to be Loudon and Tellico Lakes. Now, this is the tournament that took place in November last season. So this one is going to be a lot of fun for us as well, because Loudon is our home lake. And while it's not the best fishery, when you know a lake as well as we do for Loudon, you can catch big fish there. My personal best, largemouth 2 times. I've beaten it twice. Have been out of Loudon. One of those videos will be up later this year because I caught a 5.5 pounder out of Loudon on Thanksgiving week. And there's some big fish in there. You just have to find them. You have to know where to look based on the time of year. September 6th, it's going to be interesting because it could, if it's still really, really hot, then we have places like Ish Creek. There's a lot of deep structure there. We like to launch at the Silo and Stock Creek because there's some bluffs there and there's some deep structure that we know do well. And there's also Concord Park because it's got a lot of boat ramps and boat docks and a lot of boat houses that are really good for fishing in the heat. But if it's starting to cool down by September 6th, then we know we're fishing shallow. That's going to be Ish Creek. That's going to be some parts of Concord, and that's going to be parts of Silo. Depending on what the temperatures are is where we're going to fish at these launches. Those are 3 of our favorite for Loudon. And both have deep water and deep structure, and both have shallow water and shallow structure. So it's going to be really fun as we get into the September fishing to see what's happening with that. But again, that's down the road. It's going to depend on what our overall weather system looks like next year. But that's the regular season. They haven't determined where the Classic's going to take place, and they haven't determined where the Cast State Championship is going to take place. So that is something that we'll announce later on. But that's the season. We're really looking forward to it. There's a few that we know we're going to do very well on. We think the Rivers and Gunnersville particularly could be very good for us, and then Loudon could be very good for us. Those 3 definitely, and we have some hopes for a couple of others. And what we're hoping for is to place well in 5 particularly, just 85 tournaments, because our goal is to qualify for the Cast State Championship team this next season. And they announced that they're going to take the top 12 from each of the tournament trails. So TNKATT, NETKA, SETKA, all these various tournament trails, your top 12 anglers for the year are going to qualify for the state championship. And the state championship is based on your top 5 finishes. And we've kind of mathed it out a little bit. And we've basically concluded that if we can have 5 top 10 placements apiece, we should have a almost guaranteed spot on the state team. Now, I don't think we got 5 top 10s apiece last year, but that's when we were very new. It's our rookie year, essentially. This year, we have the potential to do that. So our ultimate goal, 5 top 10s apiece. If we could do that, we should qualify for the state championship. But when it comes to other goals, it's going to be 1, we want to finish in the money at least once. As of yet, we have not. We finished in 4th place. We finished in 5th place a couple of times apiece, but we've never finished in the money in that top 3 placement. So that is another goal. It's kind of a secondary goal, is to finish in the top 3 at least once. And we would like to catch big bass at least once. That's very possible, especially on the river one, because we've caught 20 to 21 inch largemouth or smallmouth in the rivers quite frequently. And especially around May, we have the potential to catch that big fish. And on Gunnersville, you never know. That could be anyone, because those big 8 to 10 pound bass, they're in there and they can be caught pretty much anywhere. The great thing about Gunnersville, from what we've learned, is the case is not finding water that could contain fish. Anywhere on Gunnersville could have fish based on the structure. It's a beautiful, about perfect largemouth fishery. But those are 3 goals for us. For this season, for 2025, we want to qualify for the state championship team by getting 5 top 10s. We have 3 that we definitely know for sure we have a very strong possibility of. That's with Gunnersville, the Rivers, and Loudon. So we already have the top 10 apiece. My dad finished in 7th place on Parksville. I finished in 9th on Melton Hill. So we already have 1 apiece. That's 4 more. And we have 8 more tournaments to do that with. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of really great chances going on here. And we really want to qualify for that state championship team. That would be awesome. But that's our goals. That's what to expect from 2025. Obviously, we're going to have other videos as well. We've got decent sized gaps between a lot of these tournaments where we're going to do some fun fishing, some more exploring. And we're just looking forward to another great year of fishing. We thank y'all so much for sticking to the end. We hope you've enjoyed last season and you're looking forward to 2025, seeing what happens with these videos and with these tournaments, as much as we're looking forward to fishing these tournaments and sharing them with you all. But if you have any questions about the coming season or anything in general, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. We'll get to them as fast as we can. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week, and we will see you in the next one.